Chola Kauma and Jason Manda. We continue broadcasting live committees that are receiving submissions from various councils. And right now, we will be taking you to the Committee on Local Government Accounts, which will be receiving submissions from the Secretary to the Treasury. And their submissions will be on the report of the Auditor General on the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, for the financial year ended 31st December 2024. So just now, we take you to the committee. Keep watching Parliament Television.
I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of our permanent witnesses, Secretariat, the honorable members of the committee, and indeed on my own behalf, to welcome you to your committee for government accounts, where you'll be presenting your memorandum response to the report of the Auditor General on the audit of the Constituency Development Fund for the financial year 31st December 2024. Before we go to introductions, ST, I wish to assure you that our deliberations this afternoon are protected in accordance with Cap 12 of the laws of Zambia that give immunity to the honorable members of Parliament for their work in committee as well as the National Assembly, meaning that what you say during these deliberations cannot be used in any courts of law or indeed outside Parliament as long as it is not misleading to the committee. Should you deliberately provide information that is misleading, the same Cap 12 may be used against you, ST, or your team. We take comfort as a committee that you would not opt to deliberately mislead us. Hence, we'll ask you to feel free as you interact with us after your presentation, should the honorable members feel that they need clarifications. Allow me also to apologize for the delay in starting our meeting. Our IT was facing some technical challenges. As you have noticed, we've had to move from our usual room to this room where we're in. We offer our sincere apologies for that. I now wish to invite you, ST, to introduce yourself, after which you may call up your delegation to equally make introductions. Time for introduction, ST.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Felix Nkurukusa. I'm the Secretary to the Treasury, and I'll ask my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Thank you, ST. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Nsandi Manza, Accountant General.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members of the committee. My name is Mwaka Mkubesa, Permanent Secretary, Budget and Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance and National Planning.
Good afternoon, Chair and esteemed committee. My name is Gabriel Pollen. I'm the Permanent Secretary in charge of administration at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, accompanying the ST this afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Nancy Mwamba. I'm the Director of Finance, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members of the committee. My name is Belinda Lumbala, Chief Planner from the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Jamie Mukua, Controller of Internal Audit from Ministry of Finance. Thank you.
I was wondering what CIA means. On the attendance list here, I have Jamie Mukua, CIA. Now I get it. Yes, the next one.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Chembe Mukunsha, in the Accountant General's office.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members of this committee. My name is Mwenda, Senior Budget Analyst, Budget Office.
Thank you so much. Yes, they are also in the, yes. I now wish to call up our permanent witnesses to make introductions as well. We can start with the panel behind there.
Afternoon, Chair and Honorable Committee. My name is Oscar Nyarenda from the Office of the Accountant General, Minister of Finance, permanent witness.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is David. I'm from the Ministry of Finance and National Planning. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ST and your team. My name is Joseph Mutimushi from Office of the Accountant General. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The other panel there.
Chair, good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Honorable this committee. Good afternoon, the Secretary to the Treasury. My name is Sia Brenda Mdenda from Minister of Finance, Accountant General's Office. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fred Siame from Minister of Finance and National Planning. Thank you.
Chairperson and the honorable members of your committee, good afternoon. ST and the entourage, you are welcome. I'm Kazinga Kennedy from Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. I submit, Chair.
Thank you so much. The Office of Auditor General.
ST and your team. I'm Emmanuel Tembo. I'm the Acting Deputy Auditor General in charge of audits. And I'm accompanied. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Please let them go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Good afternoon, ST. My name is Sakala Wycliffe from Auditor General's Office, Assistant Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Simon Munyama from the Planning and Research Department, Office of the Auditor General.
We're done with the Auditor General. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members of Parliament. My name is Andrew Sivare from the Office of the Control of Internal Audit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Local Government Service Commission, are they here? Okay.
Apologies, Chair, they are not with us.
Secretariat.
Good afternoon, Chair and the honorable members of the committee. I'm Wamnyima Lichaha from the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Matilda Chisenga from the Office of the Clerk.
Just hold on. Still in the month of March. We haven't yet gone into April and we are celebrating you, our women. Can you speak up?
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Matilda Chisenga and I'm from the Clerk's Office.
That's better.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon, honorable members. Good afternoon, on permanent witness. And good afternoon, ST and your team. You're welcome. Siwale Andrew is my name from the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly. Thank you.
Chairperson, much obliged. Good afternoon to you and other honorable members present. ST and the entire team, good afternoon and you're welcome. From the Office of the Clerk of National Assembly, I am Chirimboy Elijah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. ST, our committee has a panel which is physically present and another which is joining us virtually. I wish to call upon the members who are joining us virtually to make introductions. We will start with the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mangango.
Chair, good afternoon to you and our witness, ST, you are most welcome. Mr. Nkurukos. That is your committee. We are very happy to host you today, together with the entire team. I'm Mwene Luhamba, Member of Parliament for Mangango. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalulushi.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues, ST and team. You are welcome to our committee. My name is Kampamba Mlenga. I am Member of Parliament for the good people of Kalulushi on the Copper Belt. You are most welcome.
Thank you. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Dundumwezi.
Chair, I'm very grateful and good morning to you. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon, my colleagues, our permanent witnesses, good afternoon. Secretariat, good afternoon. ST and your entire team, good afternoon. My name is Honorable Dr. Singombe, joining you from Dundumwezi constituency of Kalomo District, Southern Province. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Mufumbwe.
Honorable Chairperson, and good afternoon. Good afternoon to our Secretariat and our permanent witnesses. ST and team, good afternoon, and you are welcome to this committee. My name is Elliot Kamondo. I'm Member of Parliament for Mufumbwe, speaking from Mufumbwe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kamondo. We move back to the House. We can start with the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mitete.
Grateful to you, Chairperson. Sir, you're welcome to your committee. Mutelo Mishek, your humble servant, the MP for Mitete. You are welcome.
Thank you. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Kaumbwe.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon and welcome, ST, to your committee. Honorable Dr. Aaron Mwanza, Member of Parliament for Kaumbwe constituency in Petagoge District of the Eastern Province. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Siavonga.
Yeah, Chairperson, I thank you and good afternoon to you, ST and your team. Good afternoon. Afternoon, permanent witnesses. My name is Mulunda Darius, Member of Parliament for Siavonga. Chairperson, I thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Kampamba was here personally. The ST's delegation is well in terms of gender. And we are still in March. We are still celebrating the youth and women. So to the beautiful women, we celebrate your month. We are all here because of you. May God bless you, and you look very beautiful. Christopher Shakafuswa is my name. I represent the good people of Mandevu constituency. You are welcome to Mandevu constituency. I'm the landlord of the National Assembly. Yeah, Mandevu.
Thank you, Chair, for supporting the women as we close the beautiful month of March. You have been so supportive.
Yeah.
I wish I was there to see the beautiful women. We need more men like you that will look out for more women. And thank you, ST, for having this beautiful entourage.
No, I'm glad you and others supported Bill 7 who have more women in Parliament. Don't worry. The youths, we celebrate your month as well. Unfortunately, I won't be a youth anymore, I think, the coming year. STI deputize the chair, Honorable Nyambose, who's not around, and I'm privileged to chair this session this afternoon. I wish to now call upon you to present your memorandum.
Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to interact with your committee. It's always a pleasure, and we learn a lot from this interaction and we believe that we go back to try and see how best we can implement some of the recommendations that come from there. To present a report of the Auditor General on the audit of the Constituency Development Fund for the year ended 31st December 2024, Chair. In this Auditor General's report, there are basically two paragraphs that we are going to address. One is the introductory part, budget commentary, and the second one is the specific recommendations that the Auditor General made. In terms of the introduction, Chair, the Auditor General is basically informing us of their mandate coming from different pieces of legislation, and that they carried this audit in accordance with that mandate. And Chair, all we say is that we appreciate and note the Auditor General's mandate to audit the Constituency Development Fund drawn from Section 13(3) of the CDF Act, number 11 of 2018, and the Public Financial Management Act, number 1 of 2018, and other pieces of legislation, Chair. The Treasury appreciates the Auditor General reviewed application of funds and the purpose for which they were dispersed. And we believe that, Chair, with this oversight, that we will, it forces the use sure that they use the resources according to the purpose for which the audit was done. The second issue, Chair, that the Auditor General raised was the issue of the budget and the funding. And the Auditor General has observed that out of the 4.8 billion that was allocated for the CDF in 2024, to all the 156 constituencies, only 2.6 billion was funded, leaving a balance of 2.1 billion, Chair. And the underfunding, Chair, is as a result of the challenge we had in the year 2024 because of the drought that we experienced. And we obviously had to ensure that we followed the directive of the president that no Zambian should die of hunger, and we had then to have the enhanced social cash transfer, where we added additional people that were going to have challenges. We even introduced, for those that had the energy, Chair, that could work, used what we call the cash for work to try and see how best we could be able to that. We are grateful, Chair, that we had the whole support of cooperating partners, and with the effort that we did, that we managed to go through that period without anyone dying as a result of that, Chair. And one of the issues that the Auditor General, Chair, has also raised is the issue of the balances, and not only for the CDF, but for the different programs across government, where most of the times we had even reached a point where we have so much balances in commercial banks that when the commercial banks know how much money we are spending, they could even start lending them some money that we have given to government, and government would borrow and pay interest. If a commercial bank has got, say, 100 million of government money, and they know that it will take a month for government to spend that 100 million, what the commercial bank would do is, if there's an overnight lending facility or government wants treasury bills, they would be able to pitch up that money, and government borrows that money to do treasury bills instead of undertaking that. And as a result of that, Chair, in 2024, we introduced a circular where we now were saying, can we have zero-based balance in the account, so that at the end of the day, all the accounts are swept back and the money for government is is saved. Obviously, the next issue that we are looking at is the issue of, as we get that money, if it's not being used and it is available and there's someone who wants to have an overnight facility, can we be able to invest that such money so that it starts getting some return? And those are discussions that we are looking, as we are looking at the accounting, as we are moving to accrual type of accounting, so that we can then be able to have efficient and effective use of government resources. The next, Chair, is paragraph 117, where the Auditor General is basically making recommendations. And the first recommendation is regarding budget utilization and fund management. And the recommendation is that we need to enhance monitoring mechanisms, conduct periodic reviews, and train staff in financial management. Chair, we note the recommendation from the Auditor General, and just to say that we have tried with my colleagues in the Ministry of Local Government, and we are with the PS here, and at an appropriate time I was to say something. I've tried to make sure that we follow the good tenets of public financial management. Chair, of course, we understand that we still have challenges, we still have capacity gaps, we still have gaps in terms of our implementation, but we are trying to do that. And secondary, Chair, we are trying to make sure that as much as possible we simplify, as said yesterday and today, that sometimes officers don't do the right thing, or don't do what they are expected to do, not that they don't want, but probably because they just don't know. And I don't know what is wrong with us Zambians. We are shy to say, I don't understand this, can you help me? And this is why we have now intensified on trying to do the training, provide the guidelines as much as possible so that someone can be able to refer to these guidelines, can be able to be considered and take on the training. Accountant General now has introduced what they are calling clinics, where very often when they see challenges in an institution, we don't wait until we find the normal training. They will call probably where they take them through the processes just to make sure that everyone understands. But beyond the guidelines, Chair, that we have introduced that clearly defines and assigns monitoring and evaluation responsibilities at national, provincial, district, and ward level, we have also been undertaking the actual training, Chair. In 2024, we trained 2,367 staff. In 2025, we have trained 1,156 staff, Chair. But also to ensure that we enhance oversight, Chair, and improve accountability. Now the colleagues in the Ministry of Local Government are trying to strengthen digital systems, and they have developed the CDF dashboard and the Integrated Consuers Development Fund Management Information System. And now the colleagues can be able to check on their dashboard on which of the constituencies are performing, which constituencies are not performing, and where there are challenges. And we believe that with this technology now, we can immediately try to provide interventions in the areas where we see there are some challenges. And obviously, we'll be continuing to improve this system. And I always say this, that when I went for my training in local government financing at Duke University, we went to a small town called Kerry. And when you go to that small town, there is a laptop and a screen in the town hall. And when you click on that laptop, you find all the information about public financial information about that town. And they have got issue where they would be able to tell you to say, right, that town can only borrow, and at any time that they borrow, their debt service should not be more than 15% of their revenues. And they will be able to give you the projections of their revenues and the borrowing. And if someone makes a decision that day that they want to borrow $100 million, you punch $100 million and you see the model that is telling you that in 10 years down you go above 15%. And therefore then you make a decision that you can't borrow. This is the type of information that we want to be able to available to the Zambian people so that everyone is aware of what we are doing. But why we are advocating decentralization? And obviously, we started with CDF, which is a devolution, and we believe we'll go to, which is a deconcentration. And we believe that as we are going back, we are going to devolution, is to make sure that the that we meant to support are part of the process of the development. And Chair, it will be very easy if the people that are supposed to be part of the development process, the money is given to them, they make a decision of how to spend that money. We'll see that the money will be used in good ways, Chair. The second point that has been raised, Chair, is with regard to project implementation and the recommendation. We need to introduce a robust tracking system, enforce contract accountability, and implement follow-up mechanisms. Again, Chair, just to say we note the recommendation that has been made, and that the Treasury, through the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, with support from cooperating partners and civil society organizations, we have continued to strengthen project and contract management authorities through targeted training, logistical support, and introduction of project tracking tools to ensure monitoring, quality assurance, and contract oversight, Chair. In addition, government reviewed the legal framework and we enacted the Public Procurement Act number 17 of 2023, Chair, and realizing that there was a challenge with procurement, we then said, how can we revise the procurement threshold to enhance operational flexibility for local authorities and allowing retention of unspent CDF balances into the subsequent years, Chair. And we have been trying to do that, and even when we are looking at what we did not spend in 2024, we have always been in the ministry trying to say, how can we make sure that we continue releasing and we catch up with what the intentions were under the Constituency Development Fund, Chair, and we have been doing that. The third one, Chair, is with youth empowerment grants, and the recommendation was that to conduct regular audits, maintain proper documentation, and provide training on financial compliance, Chair. And again, we note the recommendation from the Auditor General, and just to say that in line with Section 19 of the PFM Act, and as required by the Local Government Act number 2 of 2019, we have established audit committees in all the local authorities, Chair, to receive and review internal audit reports and to evaluate management procedures, Chair. And what we were saying, and we said this when we were appearing before another committee, Chair, yesterday, was that we now are trying to say, and we have had initial discussions with the acting Deputy Auditor General, where we are saying, can we sit together, can we continue sitting together to try and see how we can improve the coordination to ensure that most of these audit queries that come, some of them out of pure negligence, that they don't reach here, and that we can find the solutions before they reach here. And we are also trying to say, is there a way where we can improve our coordination between the Office of the Auditor General and the Office of the Secretary to the Treasury to make sure that we try to help backstop for those institutions that still have challenges, and we can be able, because it's surprising that some of the audits that come, Chair, after the audit query comes, when the witness is appearing, then they bring all their documentation. And you ask yourself, what was wrong with providing that documentation before? And the Auditor General has got a process where they give you a management letter. This is what we propose to put in the report. Can you confirm, or can you provide documentation so that we drop it? Why provide that documentation? Why only provide it when it comes in? This is where we are saying, is there somewhere some structural rigidities that we need to open up so that we can be able to achieve that? Fortunately enough, Chair, when we made this proposal, I think the Auditor General welcomed the proposal, and we make sure that we follow up and see how best we can be able to achieve that, Chair. The fourth one is with regard to loan recoveries, and the the recommendation, Chair, is to establish dedicated loan recovery functions, enforce penalties for defaulters, and implement creditworthiness assessments. Chair, we totally agree with Auditor General's observation, but I think this should be a shared responsibility for all of us, for the members of Parliament, in the constituencies, for the Treasury to make sure that we provide the guidelines, for our colleagues in the Ministry of Local Government to make sure that they follow up. These loans, Chair, are not loans that are to be paid back to the Ministry of Finance. This is a revolving fund. We provided 10,000 because we don't have the money. Then we say the people of Mandevu, here's a 10,000. And because 10,000 is not enough to satisfy everyone, then we say identify the first round of people that borrow that money. When they invest, they pay back that money. That money goes into a revolving fund. Another group of the people of Mandevu accesses that money. They also work on it, they repay back. It goes into the revolving fund. Another group gets that money. If we work it very well, is that by the end of the round, everyone will be empowered and the people of Mandevu will be okay. But then what surprises us is that sometimes, and we have heard this from whistleblowers, that sometimes the same people that are supposed to help us to make sure that this money revolves are the people that will go and sit under a big tree and they give someone some money, and when they get that money, they share. Now, they will share, yes, it means that person that we have shared the money with won't pay back that money. It means we have denied another deserving person in the constituency that is supposed to benefit with, to that. What should we do with those people? I was joking outside, I said, probably we should even start having what we call name and shame game, where you can be saying, out of the 156 constituencies, which was the constituency that performed well, which was the constituency that performed worse, and the constituency that performed worse will struggle now to perform well. And the constituency that performs well will also struggle to make sure that they continue performing well. And we introduce that competition, it works out. But for me, the main challenge that I have is, why should we within our own communities become so deny our fellow colleagues in the communities? If the money was coming to the government, but this is the money that you are saying among yourself, continue using it and growing this loan, and you'll be able to do that. So probably we should be able to find a way of how we can safeguard this. And Chair, we have some thoughts that we are doing, and we'll be issuing the new guidelines, amending the act again to make sure that some of these impediments that we are seeing, we bring them out. But obviously we have got to open ears if there are any proposals on how we can be able to cure. To me, this is a moral hazard. How can we cure this moral hazard so that we have responsible people? I mean, someone should have the pride. And probably at the same time again, we'll be talking with the Ministry of Local Government. Probably we should even introduce prices so that the people that are paying within, we can then be able to reward them, to showcase them, to give them some incentives so that other people can learn. But we surely should be able to cure this moral hazard. I don't think it's Zambian. I don't think he's African. I don't know where we have gotten this moral hazard that whenever you get some money, we have seen it even at a personal level. Someone will tell you, I've got a contract. Give me some money, I'll pay you next week, I'm getting paid. The moment you give them that money, that's the end. The contract will never pay them, and that I don't think is the right thing, Chair. But we are, what we are saying, Chair, is we believe this is a good intention and people should benefit. Probably it's not the time to say, can we remove it and do something else? Probably the time to say, how do we review and make sure that it works and it achieves the intention that we wanted to achieve, Chair. And this is basically what we are saying we want to do, Chair. Bursary management, Chair, strengthen verification processes, introduce post-disbursement monitoring, and ensure alignment with the program objectives. Chair, 100% agree with the recommendation, and that will continue to guide local authorities on the requirement to undertake thorough diligence and institutional skills training prior to release of the money, and ensuring that there is effective post-disbursement monitoring, Chair. We'll also make sure that we strengthen bursaries management, Chair, and they've been doing that. We have ongoing initiatives that are aimed at improving implementation of various CDF components, including development of tracking mechanisms to monitor the utilization and impact of the bursaries component, Chair, and we expect to undertake a structured evaluation of these measures, and the findings of, will be submitted to the Treasury, Chair, once the colleagues have finished doing that, and we believe that that will inform the additional policy, regulatory and operational interventions that may be required. And Chair, we have very active engagement with our colleagues. Believe we are going to get it right, and we believe that when we get this right, it is going to work as a model not only to the constituencies but to line ministries. We want you to be saying, constituency, this is what we are doing, it is working. Why are you Minister of Health or Minister of Education or Minister of Finance in that case failing to do what we are doing down? And we want these institutions to start coming and learning from the constituents. I think that is the pride that we look at, Chair. Procurement of asset management, Chair, the recommendation is that we need to strengthen contract management, conduct quality inspections, and perform regular supplier audits. Chair, again, we agree with the recommendations, and that we have been working with our colleagues in Zambia Public Procurement Authority. We have also been working with the Zambia Institute of Purchasing and Supply, and we have got cooperating partners that we have been working with, Chair, targeted at training programs that have been implemented for officers and procurement committees, and we are sure that once we implement this and there is compliance in public procurement, and also ensuring that there is compliance in GP system. And my colleagues in ZPPA are now trying to pilot the new improved system on EGP to try and see how we can be able to reduce, because one of the challenges that we have is the time which takes to undertake those processes, Chair. As I had already indicated, Chair, that training have continued and will continue training, including the clinics that the colleagues in Accountant General Office are giving. The last one, Chair, is with regard to governance, and the recommendation is that we need to enforce compliance with guidelines, and that there need to be regular training and stakeholders on the CDF guidelines, and conduct routine compliance audits to ensure adherence, Chair. And just to say that, of course, like we indicated, we will continue with the training, but in terms of the strategy, Chair, one is that we are talking about how do we strengthen internal audit function in the local authorities to ensure that before the Auditor General goes there, there is an internal check. And remember, I talked about audit committees in all the local authorities. These internal audits will then be able to flag these to the audit committees. And once they flag to the audit committees, those that are not completed, even before the Auditor General goes there, Chair, we believe that the audit committees will bring that information to us, so that as the Auditor General is going in, we already have the information, and we ensure that we help with follow-up. The next, Chair, is that obviously promote transparency and accountability, and obviously in order to do that, we are saying how can we be able to ensure that develop the finance and internal audit manuals that guide local authorities in financial management, and that helps to ensure compliance with the relevant laws and regulations, Chair. And the third one is we are trying, like I said, we are trying to review the CDF guidelines. We have had some discussions and we have provided comments on the CDF guidelines, but the only thing is that as we are CDF guidelines, we have noted also that we need, in order to align with what we want to do, we need probably to relook at the CDF Act and probably enhance some of the provisions there. And obviously the question that we have been discussing, colleagues, is whether we should issue these guidelines that are in the final stage now and leave out those that are related to the realignment of the Act until the Act is done, and then after the Act is done, then revise the guidelines, or look at, do we then be able to say we do a comprehensive thing and we're looking at what is it that we can do realign the Act, and what is it that we are going to do after we realign the Act, and if there are fundamental improvements that will come even before we realign the Act, then these guidelines will be issued immediately, Chair, probably by the end of the second quarter, so that then we can start implementing as we are waiting for the overall relook at the CDF and how we can be able to align, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Let me end here, and I think I've got a competent team. Just to tell you again that in the Ministry of Finance, out of 8 senior officials, only 3 of us are men. Women, so we have actually congratulate, since this is the Women's Month. Thank you very much to the women of Zambia. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, ST, for your presentation of your memorandum to your committee on local government accounts. I now wish to take point clarifications, if any, from the honorable members of the committee. Honorable Mulunda.
Chairperson, I thank you very much. ST, wonderful presentation, measures, wonderful futuristic points, wonderful projections. Unfortunately, ST, these wonderful measures that you put only ends with you at the Ministry of Finance. That's the unfortunate part. I want to draw you back to your presentation. One, where local authorities, like you guided, like you put it, that actually audit is a process. There is a notification that is sent to the local authority with proper guidance on what should be made available when the auditors arrive at a decision. We have had privilege to have sat on this committee for more than 5 years, I think. You still have officers that will not produce the documents that they have been asked to produce, because every institution should have a filing system. Documents are not just thrown anywhere. They have a place. But like you have lamented, ST, this unfortunately has continued. I want to find out what could be the best measures to put in place in order for our officers to comply with the audit process. That is number one. Number two, ST, in your presentation, you mentioned actually that the repayment of those loans, that money does not come to you as ST, doesn't come back to government when people are paying back, but is kept in the revolving account. My colleagues will agree with me that a lot of local authorities, most the principal officers have been defending themselves, even when we feel they have abused the funds in a way. They have been defending themselves that there is a circular from the ministry that guides them that they can get money from this account and use it for other projects intended for something else. Now, what is surprising is the revolving fund is supposed to be purely for loans. We have officers that will get that money. Even when you have people on the waiting list, they'll get that money and take it for desks. They'll get that money and take it for bursaries. Is that all right? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. I'll come back to take more questions. Honorable Singombe, I note your hand. I'll come back to you. Yes, ST, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Chair. The question is, what could be the best measures to be put in place to ensure that we have these missing documents stop missing? Obviously, the best measure ultimately, Chair, is we are talking about digitization. That will be the best way, because with digitization, there is artificial intelligence in there, and when a document is put and there is something missing, it will immediately flag out that there is something missing, or if something has been pulled out, it will flag out that something has been pulled out. What brings about these challenges, Chair? Some of them are pure administrative lapses. Where probably a document comes on a small piece of paper and it has been approved. Instead of the officer going to file that document where it belongs, they misfile that document. As long as it is misfiled, Chair, the documents are many, it will take a bit of time to find that file. Some of them, and before it was like this, where probably the accountant who is supposed to provide this information, the ones that are involved in the question that the auditor is asking. The best way to protect themselves is to remove that document so that when the auditor comes, it becomes an audit query because they may not be caught. Some of them would be to that level, Chair. Obviously, what are we trying to ensure that way? And this is why we are talking about digitization, Chair. We'll completely cure this when we digitize. As long as it remains manual, I had a case, Chair, where at the hospital, we took a file for my daughter. My daughter had asthma. We took a file, and the lady that was supposed to put back the file into the position did not put back that file, and it was misfiled. It took probably 2 or 3 days for us to be able to find that file. It is not in the position, it means you have to look, and then they will tell you to say, look at this heap probably has got 500 files. For you to find it, you need to go through those 500 boxes. But some of it, Chair, is not intentional. It's just lapses on human beings, not knowing the importance of that. And this is why we are trying to make sure that we continue building capacity in these individuals that have been given these responsibilities to ensure that we should be able to address some of those. Are we making progress, Chair? Again, I think we are. If you look at the trajectory of where we are coming from and where we are now, I think we are making progress. But we cannot completely eradicate. Probably that's the main issue. Till probably we go digitization, probably at that time we'll completely eradicate, assuming again there will be no errors and omission in the system. But I think what is important, Chair, and what we should be comforted with is that we are making progress in the right direction. We still have these, but we believe that we can be able to reduce. On the circular that has been mentioned, probably I'll ask my colleague, the PS, to talk about this what is the background of this circular. And but our understanding, Chair, is that we want this revolving fund to help the people in the constituencies. If the money is not being used and probably there is an urgent need and they say, can we borrow this money for this urgent need? I suppose that could be done, but it shouldn't affect the purpose for which this money has been released. But if you allow me, Chair, I'll ask my colleague to respond to the issue of the circular. Thank you.
Thank you. PS, you may add.
Chair, may I request Director of Finance to comment on that issue? But just also maybe to preempt, thank you, ST, for the opportunity to respond to that. Just to preempt that the CDF guidelines that are currently operational and the CDF Act itself are very clear about a variation of funds across the different spending fragments of CDF funds. It's CDF funds. I'm not aware of a guideline that allows them to just move money without making replacement. And I think, as the ST has indicated, there are allowable variations and there are some that are strictly not allowable. And even those that are allowable, based on the guidelines, the indication is that if you're borrowing for an emergency, you have to replace as soon as you receive those funds. But let me take this opportunity also to just update the committee that one of the measures that we put in place as of last year, when we learned that local authorities were to cash in their bank accounts at the end of 2024 and the years prior, is that we quickly found out that the funds they were holding on to were based on their conceptualization of what that money should be used for. So, for example, when Ministry of Finance allocates funds to Ministry of Local Government for CDF, and we disperse these funds to local authorities, and if they started a procurement process, say, of heavy equipment or for desks, and the desks haven't come, they'll keep that money and say, we're not going to spend this money until the procurement process are completed, even though maybe there are other obligations such as bursaries. So when we did a field visit and an audit last year, we found that the reasons they were holding on to funds were actually very, very simple. And we issued a circular following that to say, as soon as you receive resources, please ensure that you spend this money within 48 hours based on the existing obligations. Second thing we did, as the Minister said, then to instruct the local authorities to say that when Ministry of Finance releases funds, we check your bank accounts, and if you have money sitting there, we will give preferential treatment to those that are spending the fund themselves. And what we observed from there for the first time was that the local authorities' burn rates increased rapidly because they now got pressure from different stakeholders, including members of Parliament. And at the end of 2025, we actually saw, Chairperson, that all funds that were released by the Ministry of Finance were actually spent by the local authorities themselves. But with your indulgence, Chairperson, allow me to invite my Director of Finance to comment on that circular. Thank you.
Director of Finance. The Ministry of Local Government.
Thank you very much, ST and PS. I don't think, maybe there's misinterpretation of the circular. I think there's no where we say they can use the money in the revolving fund. I think, as PS has already spoken, the funds talked about in that circular, when the funds are released to them, they're supposed to use those funds for outstanding obligations and not to get also from the revolving fund, because we know that for revolving fund, that money is meant for loans. So that's what not the circular says. Thank you.
Follow up?
Chair, probably just to add on, just to say, we will look at this. If there is a circular or there is a misinterpretation of the circular, we'll make sure that we correct that interpretation. And if we need to rewrite it, we'll rewrite it. But the idea is the revolving fund is protected, is supposed to go to support the empowerment of the people in the constituency, Chair. I think that is the message there, and thank you.
Yes, a follow-up, Honorable Mulunda.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think ST, the last sentence is what I was looking for. How do you protect this account from abuse? If you are looking at how you protect that, then we are fine with it, because definitely we have made these explanations. No, we decided to use this money because this high school was pushing us and stuff like that. But that money is supposed to benefit the loan beneficiaries, like you put it. Chairperson, I want also to comment is ST, there are two issues in your explanation. One, you said, yes, there could be human error in terms of misfiling the documents, which I would say we are personally, I'm very reluctant to admit that. Very reluctant, because 2-3 years in a row, you have missing documents, the same people. You tell and advise and guide this year, next year you still have the same query. Very reluctant to admit that. Digital world, that could be the best. That could be the best. But for human error, I doubt even a teacher will grace a student that is failing in the same subject every year. And this subject, you are even given a leakage that this is what we want and stuff like that. Sir, very reluctant. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do we have a follow-up on the same? Honorable Mtelo, Honorable Member for Dundumwezi, is it on the same or you have a different question?
I have a question, Chair.
All right, I'll come back to you. Honorable Mtelo.
Chair, thank you so much. Sir, we appreciate your presentation. Straight on what is so fresh in my mind, missing documents. We hear the example that you've given. Mwenilonga. Here is an officer taking office. Do you know what we were told, sir? I found an empty office. Is it true? Is it true to find an empty office? Those are the things that come to your committee. No wonder the MP for Siavonga said I would take that with a pinch of salt. I'm not using that because people are now saying salt. No. How can an officer go and find an empty office, no documents? Do you know the documents we were given? Signing contract to take up a project 2026. Payment for that project 2024. Then now you ask why? Because I found an empty office. How? No. So it should be made clear to officers that keeping documents is a must, even as we are going digital. So you have documents as way back as 1950. So what would be so hard to keep the CDF documents? No. On the revolving fund, and all the plans that are coming, that it should be made clear as the guidelines are being made, because in the guideline it says 5%. So every every year when we are giving CDF 5%. So not until we touch on that and indicate to say, get the money and use the same money. Then it should also be made so clear, because we found out that one council used the grants to pay loans. Chair, the grant component to pay loans. So we're like, how? I just wanted to make mention of those two in terms of loans and the documents. Measures must be put straight. It can't be, when the auditors go, external auditors go, the documents are not there. The moment they leave, the last meet it. DAP, we are learning. Then when they come now, then they now come with the documents. So where would they have, kept and then later find them? Even if is to error, human is to error, not at that extent. Those were the follow-ups, Chair.
There was the comment.
Sorry, Chair, the follow-up before I ask a different question. I don't know if
I was actually almost coming to you. Go ahead with your follow-up. Although the ST said they would look at the measures. So unless you want to make, they will look at the circular so that they give clear guidance and clarity. You can go ahead. Go ahead and make your follow-up and ask your subsequent question.
Yeah, thank you very much. My follow-up question, Chair, on the loan component is basically to ask the ST or the PS as to whether these loans are backed by insurance. Because we have some situations where those who borrowed money died, and some of the councils do not know whether they can go to the insurance and claim. Actually, it was clear, they said they don't know. So I wanted you to clear that particular issue. Can they go to the insurance, or are these loans backed by insurance? My substantive question, Chair, having asked that follow-up on loans, maybe direct to the PS. PS, your committee had a lot of serious situations where a number of your officers are being transferred before the audit takes place. And this has, to me, it has a financial implication in that we've had some situations where we requested that the officers who were there before, in this case 2024, should come and appear. And I think for me, this has increased in the youth, maybe I can say maybe it has made local authorities spend more money when we are already struggling. Is it not possible, PS, that these transfers are only done after your committee has gone through the Auditor General's office to reduce the number of people, like sitting CS comes, the previous one also comes, they're using the council's resources. And we've had some situations where other officers were paid money but did not report or did not come to the committee. I also needed that clarified. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. ST, you can comment on Honorable Mtelo, and then PS, you can comment on those two that have been directed to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I talked about 3 scenarios, Chair, where documents would be missing. One, it would be deliberate, but if it is a repeat, normally it means it's deliberate. And what then worries me is that probably we are not providing the supervisory role, because if someone had a challenge, again, the following year there is an audit query and it's the same person, then it means they are not performing. Then what then we're saying is, how are we appraising them? We should be reprimanding them, and I think we can take that as one of the lessons, and we'll sit down with our colleagues from local government. And if we identify those officers, we won't wait until it happens again. If we identify those officers, we should be able to take disciplinary measures immediately. But like I said, that in some case, like in the case that I gave of myself at UTH, I don't think it was intentional, because there was no benefit associated with it. It's just the officer delayed to move the file on time, and then the file was put somewhere, and then they forgot, and then it became an issue. Obviously, I didn't see any intention, but we have got that. And we should be able to ensure that these documents, the rule of the thumb, Chair, is that the documents should be there. Now, when the Auditor General goes and raises, and normally, Chair, and this is where again probably we'll be talking about how can we improve our supervisory role. Normally, Chair, the experience that I had when I was a controlling officer, the Auditor General, normally the audit will come from the internal ink, the red ink from the internal audit. An issue has been raised. And if you are a controlling officer, there is a red ink. You don't wait for the Auditor General to come. By the time the Auditor General is coming, you must have all the documentation to show why there was a red ink. And the Auditor General will pick it up there. And this is why the Auditor General has the opportunity, sends a letter to us. This is what we have found. And this is what we intend to put in the report. But sometimes, Chair, is like we as controlling officers will just take it. At that time is not necessary. Until when it comes here, that's when now we start pushing officers to try and pick up that. And again, Chair, I use myself as an example. I was PS and controlling officer in the Ministry of Finance from 2012 to 2015. I never appeared before any committee. Same people that I found where Ministry of Finance was always in the committee, same accountants, same internal audit, I used them, I never appeared. I came out of finance, 2 years later, finance started again appearing in the audit committee. And I always advise my controlling officers, I made sure that the meeting that the Auditor General is coming in, the first meeting that the Auditor General had in the Ministry of Finance to start the audit of the Ministry of Finance, I attended the meeting so that I know what the issues are, and I can then work on my officers. I made sure that the exit meeting that the Auditor General was having, I attended that exit meeting so that I know what is still outstanding, and I will follow up and I will do that. And I've always encouraged the colleagues to make sure that they do that. The issue of the revolving fund, Chair, like I had already committed, that if there is any misinterpretation from the officers, it means that probably our guidelines are not clear, and we'll make sure that we make the guidelines clear so that there's no misinterpretation. But we also make sure that then we bring the colleagues, the local authorities, to make sure that we try to impart some capacity building and inform them what is the intent and purpose of this revolving fund. The intent and purpose of the revolving fund, Chair, is to benefit the people in the constituencies. We want to reduce the income inequality. Zambia is among the countries with the highest income inequality in Africa. Probably we are number 4. in terms of income inequality? How do we reduce that income inequality? How can we make sure that this inclusive growth that we're always talking about is achieved? Is by such interventions, Chair, and that is the intent and purpose. Are we going to be giving 5% every year? Yes, because the money that you need in the constituents is, and this is why it's revolving, because if we had all the money, we would have just you at once, but the money is not enough. Probably the 5% that we give you now will only cater for you have got 200 and something thousand people. And therefore, will continue until these funds are enough that they can sustain themselves. And we hope that we'll reach a point where we have got enough funds and they can sustain themselves and we can be able to impact on that, Chair. Using grants to pay loans. Chair, if it was in my private life and I found a controlling officer that used grants to pay loan, I would give them an additional mark, because it means that we are doing, but the guidelines are very clear what is for grants and what is for loan, and we believe that then there was no grant project, but there were people that needed the money, and then that was something that was going into the revolving fund. Again, we'll be able to look at it whether that is something that if there is such a space, whether it is something that we can allow. But my suspicion is that they were borrowing the grant money to pay the loan, and that when the loan money was coming, they would be able to replace the grant money. That is my suspicion. And again, we'll discuss with the colleagues and we'll be very clear in the new guidelines on the flexibility that is around all those measures, Chair. Let me ask the PS to respond to the other two.
Before he comes in, you said the solution for misfiling is to go the digital way. When are we going to see these reforms?
Chair, we are trying to do all the digitization. Obviously, in another committee, I was saying that when I was negotiating the mining development agreements, Elias Chipimo Jr. was a lawyer on the mining side, and he told me, Felix, you can eat the entire elephant as an individual only if you take a bite at a time. If we say we do everything today, we may not have the capacity, we may not have the resources to be able to do that. But I think we are moving in the right direction. I'll just give you an example. In the central government issue, now we have got, I think, almost 387 or thereabout government services. That digitally, you don't need to go to pay someone, you need to go on your computer and do that. And we are believing that we are moving step at a time. And I'm sure that the first time it is a bit slow, but as we now go into this, we should be able to move very quickly. Already we are told that they have got a system now where the PS on the dashboard can be able to tell what is happening everywhere in the constituencies. So we are doing that. We are partnering with our colleagues from Smart Zambia. The World Bank has given us a grant of $100 million to help Smart Zambia to make sure that we do this digitization. And we think it will be rather than later, Chair. I cannot commit to the day that we are going to have all this digitized, but I can just say that we are making good progress and we are getting a lot of technical support to be able to achieve this objective, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. PS, may respond to the two questions from the Honorable MP from Dunumwezi.
Chairperson, if you allow, let me support the ST on the issue of digitization before I respond to those two questions. By indicating that indeed Smart Zambia has made substantial progress on this digitization aspect. And right now the Ministry of Local Government is undertaking training on what we call Smart Office, where even as we wait to be called inside, Chairperson, we could sit in those committees and actually be doing work from the office. You could work remotely. As long as registry is equipped with the necessary equipment, they can scan documents, you can approve, you can comment, you can delegate, you can assign, and you don't have to be in the office. I know, Chairperson, that the Ministry of Transport and Logistics is already one of the pilot ministries that's running this Smart Office platform that Smart Zambia is spreading across. And when I saw my PS, my colleague PS working whilst we're waiting in another meeting. I was like, why am I not on the queue? And quickly got in touch with Madzame, but they said they are rolling it out in a phased approach. And this is the bite, I guess, of the elephant that the Secretary to the Treasury is referring to, where things are being done in a methodical way, they're being done systematically towards the goal of digitization. But in responding to the aspect of insurance or on loans, I'm not aware of any insurance currently on these loans that are being given out in the revolving fund. But perhaps that's an issue to consider or explain. I'm not aware that the revolving fund loans are supported by any sort of insurance, and whether there's been any interest by insurance companies to offer a facility for that. So thank you very much for the question, and food for thoughts, I suppose. In consultation with Ministry of Finance, we'll be able to see what we can. And the question on transferring of officers before audits take place, I think that's an important contribution itself, although reasons for transfer could outweigh the costs that would result from having staff to move. So instead of making it completely cast in stone that officers should not move, I think it should be a matter that would require maybe a case-by-case basis. But it is indeed a good guide to say that where it is not of utmost necessity to move the officer, perhaps it will serve economic expediency to hold off the transfer. So we will consult with the Local Government Service Commission, who are in charge of staff matters, and see how best these issues can be addressed. Is that a submission, Chairperson?
We had the Local Government Service Commission yesterday. We have principal officers most of the times being transferred to other stations because they failed to perform in one station, or maybe they have some misappropriation allegations in one station, like the case in Kapiri, where funds were being stolen and senior officers were being involved. And instead of suspending these officers, you find that the commission transfers these senior officers to other stations. The Kapiri officer was moved. 2 were suspended. 1 director planning was moved to Livingstone. We had several officers being moved to other stations because they were found not to be performing well. And so you find that you have a query of unsupported payments. The principal officer is moved to another station, and the one who is seated there on the chair, ST is seated, does not have information how these payments were made. And so we committee, why should we then fetch for the other officer who has been moved to Council B to come and accompany this new CS to answer to these queries, when they should have been the ones to answer to these queries? I think that is the worry of the committee. Yes, that border on misappropriation, underperformance. I think we made our recommendations to the commission that we needed to see them, deal with them, unlike transferring a problem to B to C. When one is a problem, transferring them is not a solution. So I think that is where the honourable member for Dundumwezi was getting to. Honourable Mutelo, you can ask your questions. I like to end with Dr. Manza because his questions are long. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Grateful for the presentation once more again. We had from the Local Government Service Commission that due to the salary issues, engineers are employed by 10 hours, 15 hours they resign. What must we do? to maintain such officers, because they would feel the other of the same qualifications are handled rather better than themselves in local authorities. Confirm on the ambulances. Yes, we were told yesterday, but we want to have a confirmation from you, sir. The loan part has been catered for, but there's a presidential directive.
What confirmation do you need on the ambulances, Honorable Member?
Whether those which never came have been procured, are they within the country? If they are, when are the respective authorities receiving? It's in public domain, so we just have to face it like that. What do we do? It is obvious, the new coming up 70 constituencies. In regards to the monitoring vehicles, the Western Province has a peculiar situation. The monitoring vehicles, we are totally grateful. But when you are in Western Province, you are in Western Province. They are done, or they are already giving up. What would be your take there? Some councils are rather overstaffed. Others do not have. Where is the problem coming from? You mentioned on EGP, I'm totally grateful, because the councils have indicated challenges. You've said on the 2024 balances, thank you very much. How much, just for the sake of knowing, how much is still to be released? In the new guidelines that are yet to come, will and the council secretaries be part and parcel of the CDF committees? Because when they do appear, they tend to be like a bit lost. They have to listen from their lieutenants, their officers. Maybe I leave the solar issues for my colleague. You make mention of them. Allow me, Chair, end here and get a feedback from.
Very short, but there are lots, huh?
ST, but we're grateful with the CDF programs. Totally grateful. More so in the rural areas. How I wish you were able to just go to Miteta and see one thing. Things are happening in the rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dundumwezi, I've noted your hand. I'll come back to you.
It's an additional question on the ambulances, Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, I just want to bring to the attention of the ST and the PS that these ambulances were procured without treasury authority, where in certain constituencies, like if I can give my own constituency, Dundumwezi, when we asked these ambulances to come to our constituencies where they were voted for, we are told that we have no drivers.
Yes, are you there, Dundumwezi? Okay. The network could be.
And in this situation, thank you, Chair.
Please come again on the drivers. We had lost you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, what I'm saying is that I was giving Dundumes as an example. There was no treasury authority to employ a driver for the ambulance. And now, because of that, the ambulance is always in Karomo Central, not in Dundumwezi. So my question, I know there are other constituencies who are facing a similar situation. We haven't gotten an ambulance for Karomo Central, and now my ambulance is in Karomo Central because that's where there's a driver, and for Dundumwezi there's no ambulance because the driver is in Karomo Central. So how are you helping to ensure that these ambulances are parked where they were sent, but there are no drivers in these constituencies like Dundumwezi?
Thank you. Yes, ST, you may go ahead to respond.
Thank you very much, Chair, for those questions. I think the first one is the issue of salaries. How do we maintain the engineers? They are moving. Chair, unfortunately, we can only cut our cloth according to size. And for us, when the engineer, for me in the Ministry of Finance, when the engineer is finding jobs and moving, it is a good economic indicator that we're expanding. And therefore, we are creating jobs. And I'm very sure that when this engineer, if you go to and ask Engineers Association of Zambia how many engineers are not employed, there are so many. So if there is an engineer that finds a job in the local council and they move, and we'll continue training, Chair, because we are also providing for the market. But I cannot guarantee that we'll have to change the salary scale for the engineers. What we need to do, Chair, is as we are growing the economy, as the councils start performing and have more money, then the salaries will increase, Chair. Most of us, Chair, are not paid commensurate to our capacity. We are paid in accordance to what the government can be able to afford. Ambulances, how many?
Maybe before you go there,
yes,
I think his question
Recording in progress.
is more to do with harmonization of salaries, where an engineer in the same government at ZESCO, an engineer working for a parastatal, an engineer working for the same government is getting higher paychecks than engineers in the council. We have the Emoluments Commission, and we had this discussion with yourselves, ST, and this team, even last year, where we recommended that the Local Government Service Commission must move the Emoluments Commission to harmonize salaries for the technical workers in the local authorities because they are the lowest paid. They are demotivated. We appreciate the decentralization where more resources are being taken to the local authorities. But all the councils have now bought yellow machines. The motor grader operator in the council gets a song. But if you go to the motor grader operator in central government, they get a good salary. A civil engineer in the council gets peanuts. Go to a civil engineer at ZESCO, RDA, they get heft packages working for the same government. The question is, when are we going to harmonize salaries for council workers as well as the workers that work for the central government? Because the levels of salaries are very much at par. I mean, they are not commensurate. You find one gets peanuts and the other one gets a good salary, yet they work for the same government. I think this is where the worry is, and as a result, we've had the attrition levels for technical staff in the local authority is quite high, and it's affecting service delivery, yet the government has put enough resources, bought equipment, but we don't have the technical staff to undertake, the responsibilities. We need your comment on that. It includes also lawyers. We are not saying the lawyers in the private sector should get the same salaries as local authority lawyers. No. We are saying Director Legal in the Ministry of Finance must get something similar to Director Legal at the ministry. I mean, at Lusaka City Council. The lawyers in government are getting better salaries than their colleagues in local government. I think this is where the conversation is. We had to enact legislation to operationalize the Emoluments Commission. And I was vice chairperson of that committee. I can tell you that colleagues, even from the ruling party, did not want that commission to start. Some of us advocated for it so that local government employees could get better remuneration coming from the local government background. But we are any changes. And so this is the question, why is it taking too long for the Emoluments Commission to harmonize salaries for the technical and specialized staff in local authorities? ST.
Chair, thank you very much, Chair. I will give you my opinion, Chair. If we say let us harmonize the salaries and let's harmonize them at the higher rate, it means we have to find money somewhere to pay, isn't it? Where are we going to find this money to pay? We will end up having all the government revenues to go and pay civil servants. But civil servants are only 200, 300,000. And we get this, the development of the country. There are a lot of people that don't have jobs, that we need to use this money to create jobs. This is why we are talking about Constituency Development Fund and the loans. Do we want to get that money that we are given to the Constituency Development Fund to go and pay civil servants for the sake of harmonization? In my view, Chair, we don't need to harmonize salaries. We need to recognize the work that you are doing and pay you for the work that you are doing, in my view. Because now we have got people that are saying, why should they be lower than the Bank of Zambia governor? Because we are public institutions, let PS start getting at the level of the Bank of Zambia governor. And I'm just saying, Zambia governor applied for the job. If you want to get a salary of a Bank of Zambia governor, go and apply to become a Bank of Zambia governor. In my view, Chair, to be honest with you, yes, we need to improve the salaries. But we need, like I said, to eat a bite at a time. If we rush to go and say, let's increase salaries for everyone, we'll increase the salaries, but all the money will go to pay salaries. We want to grow the economy. And sooner rather than later, we even fail to pay the salaries because we will not have grown the economy. What should we do now? What steps should we take? We recognize the salaries are low because now we are even struggling. Most of these local authorities are basically dependent on the government equalization fund because they cannot. How do we empower them to generate the money? how do we work with the local authority? And for me, Chair, this is why I personally, not because I personally went for a decentralization course, because I've always believed that decentralization is a solution. And if we decentralize, probably we'll leave very few at the central government, the rest of the people will go to the local government, and we'll be able to enhance the resource mobilization, and we'll be able to pay. So it's a question of how do we sequence, Chair. We appreciate, we understand, but how do we sequence to make sure that we reach there? If we rush one leg and we don't do the resource mobilization, we'll have a challenge where, yes, we'll have all these engineers. I was looking at a budget, Chair, in 2013 for Central Province. There was a program in that budget. Salaries, 15 million kwacha. Salaries. Operations, something like 5 million kwacha. Training, something like 1 million kwacha. And all that department were going to do a program in the Central Province, one of the departments forgotten. The actual program that were paying 15 million salaries, we are paying 5 million operations, we are buying vehicles, capacity building and everything. The actual program, Chair, the money that was put for the actual program was 58,000 kwacha. So we are spending more than 25 million kwacha to undertake a program worth 58,000. This is the challenge we have. We need to ensure that we look. I'm not saying no. I know that that is the route we should go. We should harmonize, we should compensate, remunerate according to the work that is being done, but probably we still have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 steps before we reach that level, Chair. And yes, the Emolument Commission has come. Probably let's do those steps, because if we do that and we say the PS should get the salary of a Bank of Zambia governor, we will not be able to pay and will not have resources to be able to undertake the programs which are supposed to grow the economy so that we can now have money to pay the salaries. What should we do first? I think that is the question, Chair, that I plead that we work together. On the ambulances, Chair, the 119 have been delivered, 30 remaining, and we have been told 37 are now in. They are being branded. And immediately they finish branding, within a fortnight, Chair, these ambulances will be delivered to the respective constituencies. The new 70 constituencies with regard to monitoring vehicles, Chair, obviously this came with the act that was just passed. Unfortunately, the act came after we had presented the budget. Obviously, we are looking at how do we realign to make sure that we accommodate these 70 constituencies at the time that they come in office, and we should be able to do that. We may not have the money at that time, but we should be able to look at how do we make sure that we bring these 70 constituencies on board. It's not only the motor vehicles, it's also the constituency offices, the recruitment of the staff in the constituencies, the salaries for these.
That is a bonus answer. Allow me to save you from that. You can move to another question.
Western Province peculiar. Yes, we understand, and again, it's something that we are looking at with my colleagues in the Ministry of Local Government, because probably a 4x4 in Katuba constituency where I come, or in Mandevu where you come, it will last probably 10 years. In Western Province, it will last 3 years. The question is, if we are talking about equity, does Western Province then use the Constituency Development Fund to replace that vehicle, or should we look at other mechanisms to be able to consider as we are looking at this Constituency Development Fund? Now, one of the issues we are doing, Chair, again, it was just a question of us wanting to make sure that, first of all, there is buy-in. Because about equity, Chair, then we'll be looking at what is the population, what is the distance covered, what is the development level, all those factors. And when we use those factors, then we weigh those factors, and then the Constituency Development Fund then will be different from constituency to constituency depending on the parameters that are in there. But we thought, instead of us starting with that, let's start with equality so that there is buy-in. After we have buy-in, then we'll start looking at what are the other peculiar issues that we take in place, and then we should be able to have. But in the meantime, this is an issue that we'll be looking at and say, for those that have got such challenges, how can we make sure that we look at that? Is it something that we can say means of local government probably over and above the Constituency Development Fund for those constituencies that have got this peculiarity, provide the resources to be able to provide for that? Or should we be able to say Constituency Development Bank, it doesn't fund, it doesn't matter where you come from, if your vehicle breaks down, you have to use it from your constituency? I'm sure those are the issues that we'll be discussing. Some councils have overstaffed. This is an issue that has come to our attention, Chair. One is the issue of the transfers that we already talked about. Even the cooperating partners have been complaining that they introduce a program in the district, they bring with the capacity building, they build the capacity of the people to implement that program, but just by the time the people now are starting to implement the program, they are transferred. The other people that come in, the program won't be implemented. And like the PS has said, we will be sitting down, and we have already started engaging the Local Government Service Commission to say, how can we align ourselves so that we don't have such wasted resources that we put in. But how can we also make sure that the councils have got the staff that is just required for the councils? There's no need for a councils. We are told that in some councils there's no fire extinguishers, but they have got 15, 20 firefighters. And you ask yourself, what do we do? And then we come to your point, even before they can drive a fire engine, then we are saying, can we also equalize on the salary that they have? We are trying to say, how do we align and make sure that we have that share? On the issue of that the Honourable Member for Tundumwezi has raised, I mean, the issue, Chair, probably what we can do is we can take it up and then have a discussion with the Honourable Member, because these the understanding was that these drivers were supposed to be recruited. Now, I don't know what the reason why they didn't recruit, because at the time that we were getting these vehicles, Chair, the policy was made and the rest of the processes was just administrative. It's not that the refusal to grant the Treasury authority to employ, because the policy was already made. So many vehicles have been bought, and therefore so many. It's just like the way we are talking about the constituency offices where the policy has made and the recruitment has to be made. So if there's a peculiar case, but we'll just have to follow up and find out if this is just for Tundumwezi or common among other constituencies, and if it is just for Tundumwezi, what has caused this, and we can be able to fix it. But probably what we can commit, Chair, through my colleagues in the Ministry of Local Government, we can take it up and see how we can quickly address this issue that has been raised.
Perhaps you need to check with their colleagues in the Ministry of Health.
Yes.
It's not only for Tundumwezi, but in other districts as well. You may...
Thank you. I think I've answered all the questions. And
there is a question about the 2024 balance.
Oh, sorry, Chair. For the 2024 balance, we actually had made a commitment initially to the minister that we should have released the balance in 2025, part of the balance in 2025, and the remaining balance in 2026. But I've just been advised that we had a challenge in 2025 and we did not release that balance. But there is a commitment, Chair, because this is a commitment we made from the beginning, that we should be able, as we have the resources, we should be able to make sure that we release this. And what we have discussed with our colleagues in the Ministry of Local Government is just to advise the constituencies that instead of us incurring the arrears, as this money, can we make sure that concentrate on finishing the projects that are remaining, knowing how much, because remember I talked about equality. Some people got, some people did not get, knowing how much was remaining, and that once we have the resources, we are going to even out and make sure that everyone gets back their money. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the last one is, in the new guidelines, will the TCs or CSCs be part of the CDF committees?
PS, do you want to respond to that? Let me ask
they were
the
short,
PS.
but quite a number. That's how.
Let me ask the PS to respond to that. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, PS.
Thank you very much, ST. Chair, if you allow, may I be excused from preempting the finalization of the guidelines at this point. But consultations were made with broad stakeholders, including members of parliament, and a number of suggestions were incorporated in the new guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Dr. Mwanza.
Thank you, Chair. I will try just to be short and to the point.
Feel free. The floor is yours.
Okay. The first one is on page 1. I've looked at the framework on how Constituency Development Fund was enacted through Act number 11 of 2018. Then I looked at how the CDF funding to all the constituencies has been progressing. From 2021, it was 25.7 million kwacha per constituency. 2022, 28, then 30 million, 36, and 40 million. My question to this effect is government planning to incorporate a percentage of the national budget, to say, for example, a 2027 budget, it should be in the constitution that CDF allocation should be a percentage of the national budget, for example, 4% or 5%, because the trend of increment from 25 up to 40 shows increase of average percentage increase of 8% per year. So would we incorporate this in the national constitution, the constitution of Zambia, to say, since we have already now devolved, right? We're almost there. We are devolved. So in the national constitution, to say there'll be from the national budget, we'll have 7% allocated to CDF. I don't know whether I'm clear, but because I see in other ministries, like there was a budget declaration that all government should do 12% of their national budget to support health. So are we going into that direction? The second one is, it has been partly answered, but it has been partly answered that on page 2, where you have 2.6 billion kwacha, which you have funded, and the ministry disbursed 2.2 billion kwacha, whilst the balance is 2.55 billion kwacha through the circular that was, if I can read in part, it was written on 11th December, a commitment to say, as announced in the press briefing that was issued by the Honorable Minister of Local Government on 26 November 2025, the Treasury is in the process of releasing 1.3 billion kwacha of this year, meaning before the end of 25. And then the balance would be released in a quarter of 2026. This ST, they are all authorities that we have interacted with them, 116, all of them using this circular as an appendix to their presentation, saying the performance of our CDF is delayed because of delayed release of the funds from Ministry of Local Government through Ministry of Finance, and they could attach this as evidence. So now, when I've looked at your explanation on the page 3, to say the release, that the Treasury acknowledges the observations of the Auditor General and wishes to clarify that owing to constrained fiscal space during the financial year under review, it was not feasible to fully fund the Constituency Development Fund. This position was further influenced by emerging national priorities for the declaration of 2024 as a disaster year, which required the realignment of budgetary allocations to support urgent response measures, including social protection interventions such as the Cash for Work program. The key word here is realignment. We all appreciate that 2024 was a disaster year, and it had to be realigned. And in this case, what percentage of the CDF was realigned to support these urgent response measures that included social protection measures such as the Cash for Work? In my little understanding, when you realign the budget, which means you are working from a global budget that was allocated. For example, the national budget for 2024 was 4.7 billion. Yes, it was 4.7 billion. So when you realign, you are not talking about supplementing. You are not talking about supplementary budget. You take part of the money that has already been allocated for CDF of 4.8 billion kwacha and realign it to key priority expenditure areas, meaning that what you have transferred, you've removed monies from maybe community projects or somewhere else, you are not expected to pay back. So the second question there is, these funds, that is the balance on the 2024. Now that you gave a very clear explanation that you realigned some of the funds to respond to the urgent measures, the letter that you committed yourself that the balance 5 billion kwacha for 2024, is this money there? Because it is well explained that it was aligned to respond to. So is this money there? And if it's there, when do we expect it to be released? I'll come to the ZBB policy, which is the zero based balance policy. Before initiating this policy, did you have a thorough interrogation on what would be the impact on mopping the funds to these constituency accounts? Because the impact that came later after the funds were mopped, and you are now paying these, we are funding these constituencies based on the IPCs. The CDFCs in all the constituencies are very efficient to plan, to budget for the following year. I'm sure all constituencies, like now for 2026, we have submitted all our expenditure items, and they're undergoing through approvals. In fact, 3/4 of the constituencies, they have already been approved by PLOGO. It is now just with the procurement. So why the ZBB is based on on IPCs, not based on contract agreements. Because when you sign a contract with a contractor to construct a 1x3 classroom block at an agreed amount, 1.2 million kwacha or something like that, those funds should be reserved for that particular contract. Now, you you mop the funds and wait for IPC from this contractor. Remember, there are various contracts that are ongoing. It depends on the efficiency of some contractors to submit some IPC. Then our council would have some funds and direct it to the. I will give a very direct example of my constituency, which the ZBB, which can also be applicable to other constituencies, has a very big impact. Right now, we budgeted for 3 funded under 2024. The procurement solicitation period took long. Contractors, they bid their prices very high, non-responsive. Tried ZNS, they were even much higher. And so the cycle took long, to the fact that we finally allocated the contracts in November last year. That is just right at the beginning of the rainy season. The contractors go on the ground, they start attempting this. How can a contractor now issue an IPC when now the heavy rains, the bridges have been washed away? 3 locations, Manyani Ward. Now this, we have a contract with these contractors. Right now, Kaumbe constituency account specifically was never funded for 2024. 0 funding completely out of 30.6 million pronouncement. I complained about this last year in our meeting, and I've followed the officers to send even videos concerning those locations. That is the most worrying factor, because communication is cut off. When are you funding my constituency? I was checking all these 116 councils, some councils which I can't even mention. They were even overfunded. I had to remind the CS to say, do you see that the budget and funding here, you received 37 million kwacha under 2024. Did you report this overfunding? And how did you do it that your account was 0 to... They couldn't even have an explanation. They said, well, we reported and we were told to say they also just discovered, and they have put the 5 million of expenditure, the 5 million, I think 5 or 7 million kwacha. They have said, oh, this 7 million kwacha, we're not going to take it away from you. It is now going to be brought forward funds for 2026 under the 40 million. How lucky that constituency is. And in one council, Petauke District Council, that has 2 constituencies, Kaumbwe and Petauke Central. Petauke Central received the funding almost more than 10 million towards 2024. But my constituency, where I'm doing very fine, good utilization of the CDF projects, have stalled. Projects have stalled, and we are looking forward that we close the accounts before Parliament dissolves, so that it is just, we leave everything to the councils. So it's just my plea that let the 2024 be cleared, and they have given you all the necessary accounts, statements, conciliations, but what I see is that the Minister of Finance will release funds to Minister of Local Government. Why also don't you fund these constituencies equally? You find this constituency has received 2 million, the other constituency 8 million, or something like this. We have these figures. And when local authorities submit their request for payment, they request for payment of maybe 15 million, only given 1 million. Well, the good news now is that you are undergoing guidelines. You know, you are reviewing the guidelines for the CDF 2026 or something like this, and the actual picture of community projects is that contractors, actually the objective of a positive discrimination, that is giving these contracts to locals, is that we need to have that technology transfer. We need also the local community where you're building a 1x2 classroom block to benefit the locals, either through wages as they work at that particular contract. But the situation is so sad that a contractor leaves a construction site without paying wages to the local labor force. Someone is just an skilled worker, or you're a carpenter or something like this, and he tells you to say, local government has not paid me, so I cannot pay you. I've submitted my IPC, now it's 4 or 5 months, they haven't paid me, so why should I pay you? The contractor abandons site, and most of these contractors who come from far areas, because our constituencies, rural constituency, it's difficult for local contractors to meet the EGP conditions. So they come from other areas of Zambia, they leave that site, and they're out of communication. The problems go to the MP. They'll tell you to say this contractor never paid so much money for this classroom block that we have. So the solution, engage the client, the project manager, is there's no legal framework which is binding through the works contract. The works contract should include certain clauses and specific conditions of a contract or something like that to find a way to protect the local community through those clauses. To say, for example, you say when you're putting up the bid through this BOQ, you must state how many people, skilled labor, unskilled labor, and their rate, and they produce contracts, labor contracts. Then when you are paying the IPC, the local authority would have the authority to even pay the local workers, because they would depend on the legal framework which will be in the contract. One other thing that we can add on is these engineers.
Could you summarize your thoughts in form of questions?
In form of questions, this is just a contribution as they think of updating the guidelines to make this program work better to both sides. Our engineers are overwhelmed with work, because I'm one of the engineers. So they're overwhelmed with work. And one engineer is supposed to, it was yesterday when Vice Chair talked about like Lusaka, you have more than 38 sites. Then these sites, only one engineer has to supervise. So they're overwhelmed with work, and we need to include some aspect of also design. You see, the WDC would prefer to say at this location we need a dam. So that project through the CDFC passes, and there is no standard design. There's no standard design for a dam. There's a standard design for at least a 1x3 classroom block, or even a maternity annex through the Ministry of Health. These are structures that should be purposely designed based on the local conditions, where you're putting up the dam, to select the dam, the location of the dam axis, and take soil samples to test and do the So how can the council engineers design a dam? So there's need, like certain specialized projects, to involve consultants.
Honorable Dr. Mwanza, for certain recommendations, we will sit as a committee when we're doing a report to include what you're saying. For now, we have the ST with us.
Okay, okay.
Asking
engage later,
questions
yes.
pertaining to his memorandum.
Yeah. No, I think these are some of the issues that...
for Treasury.
I think I'll engage...
When is he giving Kaumbwe the 2024
yes.
balance?
Yeah.
Re-emphasize.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the solar, the 2 megawatts solar, this news to all constituencies is quite... it was received with gratitude. When will this project take effect? Because we have already allocated the 10 million from every constituency. So when are we having the contractors on the ground?
Thank you so much, Dr. Mwanza. Before you respond, ST, maybe we can take a 5 minutes health break, and then we come back and you give response.
On local government accounts, which is still receiving submissions, which is seeking points of clarification from the report that the Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Felix Nkulukusa, together with the team have submitted. The committee has just gone on a 5 minutes break, and they will be back after some minutes. So keep watching Parliament Television.
Here is an announcement. The National Assembly of Zambia invites bids from eligible bidders for the provision of media marketing services for the placement of advertisement on Parliament Radio and Television through a framework agreement. Bidding will be conducted by using the open national bidding procedures specified in the Public Procurement Act No. 8 of 2020 as amended by the Public Procurement Amendment Act No. 17 of 2023. The successful bidder will require to provide media marketing services for the placement of advertisement on Parliament Radio and Television for a period of 2 years. Submission of bids shall be through the EGP system on or before Thursday, 30th April 2026 at 10:30 hours local time. Bids submitted outside the EGP system will not be accepted. The pre-bid meeting will be held on Wednesday, 8th April 2026 at 10 hours in Committee Room 1 at Parliament Buildings. Bidders wishing to obtain clarification on the tender may do so through the EGP system or contact the Procurement Office at the National Assembly, Rooms M4 or M7, plot number 5030, Olympia, Parliament Road, PO Box 31299, Lusaka, Zambia. Telephone number +260 211 2924 26 236. Interested bidders may access the solicitation document on the EGP system. Democracy works best when leaders are prepared. The Institute for Parliamentary Studies and Training, IPST, of the National Assembly of Zambia, in collaboration with the Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID, invites aspiring parliamentary candidates, political party officials, civic leaders, and policy professionals to participate in the Preparing for Parliament program. Participants will gain insights into the roles and responsibilities of a Member of Parliament, parliamentary procedures and practice, constitutional and legal provisions relating to members of Parliament, the National Assembly standing orders. Registration has since commenced and training venues are as follows. For Lusaka, the deadline for registration is 2nd April 2026. The training will run from 8th to 9th April. Livingston, the deadline is 7th April 2026, and the training will run from 13th to 14th April 2026. Ndola, deadline is 13th April 2026. The training will run from 16th to 17th April. For Kasama, the deadline is 15th April 2026. The training will run from 20th to 21st April 2026. Participation fee is 2,500 kwacha only per participant. This includes training materials, teas, lunch and certification. Prepare to lead, prepare to legislate, prepare to save. Register now. Limited spaces available. For more information, call 0978 894430 or 0977 207703, or visit the parliamentary website on www.parliament.gov.zm. Institute for Parliamentary Studies and Training, empowering parliamentary excellence in collaboration with the Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID.
Good afternoon. Good evening. You're still watching Parliament Television. We now take you back to the Committee on Local Government Accounts, in which the Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Felix Nkulukusa, they've already made their submissions, and members of Parliament are seeking points of clarification from the report that they've submitted. So just now we take you to the committee.
I wish to call the meeting to order. Welcome back, ST and your team. Before we went on a break, we had about four questions from Honorable Dr. Manza. I now wish to invite the ST to respond.
Thank you very much, Chair. The first question was regarding if government is considering incorporating in the Constitution a provision that provides a percentage allocation to the Constituency Development Fund. Chair, I think that is a policy issue, and obviously the constitutional amendment has got a different process altogether. All I can say, Chair, as I said in the introduction, that I think the country's desire, as propagated in the Constitution, is that we are going to decentralize by devolution, meaning the decentralization will undertake this operation through local authorities. And when we now were looking at can we start the decentralization by devolution, there were issues of can we position the local authorities to be able to undertake this decentralization. And in the absence of that positioning, we said instead of us waiting until we have the capacity to undertake the devolution, can we start with the deconcentration? And this is how the CDF came into being, because it is central government deconcentrating at the local government undertaking these projects. Is this the model that we wanted to continue with? Probably at that time we'll have to change the constitution and say we back from devolution to deconcentration as a form of decentralization. Otherwise, this was supposed to be a transitional phase as we are preparing the local authorities so that we go into full or decentralization. And that is a decision that we'll be making at the time of reviewing the constitution. What is the balance that, or what was the money that was realigned? So the money that was realigned in 2024, Chair, is the money that was not released, which was 2.55 billion. That was the money that was realigned. But this realignment did not mean we deny. This realignment meant that we should be able to give you this money at an appropriate time. And this is why I think both the Minister of Finance and I think the circular that the Honourable Member was reading was from the Minister of Local Government, where we made a commitment. This commitment was not only made with the Minister of Local Government. I actually had an input, and they brought that letter that the Minister of Local Government was going to issue for our check and approval that yes, we are aligned on that. And we are still aligned. And at that time when the minister was said 1.3 million, Chair, remember that we had an IMF program that was supposed to have ended in December 2025, and against that program there was a funding that was coming of $188 million, 50% of which come to the budget, and that was budgeted in the 2025. Unfortunately, that conclusion delayed. It only concluded in 2026. So at the time that circular was issued, we were very sure that we were concluding that money will come. We pay the salaries, we'll still have the money, and we are going to make good of the 1.3 billion that the minister had indicated. Because that money did not come, we only concluded these discussions, and the program was approved in January. It meant that the money then was coming in 2026, and again, the commitment is that as we move in 2026, all things being equal, Chair, that's what we call in economics, that we are going to make good. It's unfortunate, Chair, that as we are making all these efforts, and for some of us could even see the light at the end of the tunnel, But all of a sudden, 2025, there is a drought. All of a sudden, there is cholera. All of a sudden, now there is this war in the Middle East, and therefore we have got challenges that may destabilize the macroeconomic parameters that we achieve. But what I can assure you, Chair, is the commitment from both the Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Sorry to cut you.
Yes, please.
Actually 2024, not 2025.
Yes,
I
2024.
just want to correct that.
Yes, so I was saying that we're on the trend. 2024, we have a drought. We now are trying to recover, and everything was showing in 2025. 2026, we have got this war now in the Middle East that is threatening the fuel supply, and we don't know how it is going to unfold and what impact it will have on our economy. And we're trying to look at that and how we can mitigate against those challenges, Chair. But what I want to assure you, Chair, is that there is a commitment from both the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development to make good of the commitment and the promise they made. And we may, depending on the challenges we have, we may not be able to do it 1 year, but we should be able to do it probably in 2026, probably, and as we go to 2027, and we should be able to catch up and the planning, Chair. Zero-based balance policy, Chair, and the challenges that it causes. One of the challenges, Chair, again, I want to be very frank with you, was that some of the colleagues, in order to frustrate this policy, were doing it deliberately. The zero-based balance policy, Chair, was saying that we will put your money into this account. If you need that money, just send an email to the accountant general and the officer. Just send an email and say, this is ready for payment, and the money will be sent to you. But I received several MPs, Chair, that would come and say, my chief ex, they have said they have written a letter to Minister of Local Government. The money has already been funded to you. We are just managing the account, and we tell you, here is an officer, the day that you want your money and you are you. Send an email to the officer, because if you write a letter and you are coming from Eastern Province, it will take 7 days to reach here. It will take probably another 7 days to go back. You have lost 14 days. But send an email, and the officer's number and email address were given. When this email reaches the officer, they will do the reconciliation on the email, and the money is released. But we saw a lot of people that still resisted and wanted to go the traditional way, not because that did not work, but they wanted to frustrate the process. Some of them it could be. But here's a principle that I was talking about, Chair. The honorable member says, if you sign a contract for 1.3 billion, let's release that 1.3 billion in the Constituency Development Fund, and it sits in Zanaco account, for instance, for constituency number 1. Constituency number 2, 1.3 billion. It sits in another bank, APSA bank. Constituency number 3, 1.3 billion. It sits in another bank, UBA bank, for instance. I'm just giving an example. The Treasury now would want to get money to probably undertake another operation in the means of local government. There is 3.9 billion sitting in the different banks. The Treasury wants 600 million to give means of local government. If we follow that policy proposal, it means that the Treasury then will go to the bank and ask the central bank, can you go onto the market and raise money for us so that we pay local government? When the central bank goes and issues a treasury bill, a government paper, to raise money on behalf of the government, Zanaco is sitting on 1.3 billion. They even know that this project will take probably 6 months. They will lend that 1.6 billion to the government of Zambia. The government of Zambia will start paying interest on the 600 of their 1.3 billion that is sitting in their account. That is not the efficient way of using the money. And this is why we talked about the single treasury account, the zero balance. Why should we, if the money is not in use, let us give it to him who wants the money now. Let us give it to you who want the money now. on the understanding that the day you want the money, because we have already given these other two, the money will be available for you. That is the principal, Chair, of this zero balance. It could have had some structural challenges, it could have had some teething problems, but we can be able to correct those teething problems and we can be able to move with this process. Where is the challenge? We can then be able to say, how do we smoothen those challenges? And we should be able to look at it as we are looking at the guidelines, Chair. So I just wanted to emphasize that point, Chair. What now we are looking at is, there is a commitment. We have told you we have got the money. Go and sign the contract. When the certificate is ready for payment, then we give you the money, you pay the certificate. So that for those certificates that are not ready, we can use the little resources to go around and be able to attend to everyone. The only time that this will fail is at the point your certificate is ready, then you come and say, give me the money. Then we fail to give you the money. And this is why, Chair, now we are talking about some reforms in the Ministry of Finance, and we hope it will come to fruition. Where now we want to say, instead of us doing cash rationing, once we agree on the budget, we know the money that we're going to get in the first quarter, I should be able to give the controlling office and the Ministry of Local Government a warrant. Here's your warrant. You go and spend in the first quarter. So that the Ministry of Finance job, the budget office job, will be to look for money and not to start cash rationing. This one comes today, pay me so much. This. We want to move out of there. But for us to do that, we need to make sure that these systems are developed, these systems are working. And this is what we are doing with Accountant General to make sure that these systems are working and they are developed. There are teething challenges, and the honourable member is right to say he has not been given any money and he's got challenges. But let's identify those and isolate them as isolated cases, and we can then put ourselves together and say, how do we address those isolated cases, Chair? Contract leaving the site without wages, and I think this, Chair, recommendations that I think we should be able to look at as we are drafting the contract. How do we make sure that we protect the local workers so that the contractor doesn't leave? But also, how do we make sure that we expand our EGP training to the locals in those, because we want to empower the locals. Is it the way that we can be able to partner with the Institute of Purchasing and Supply, with the ZPPA, and we deliberately design a policy that starts building capacity in these constituencies? We can even start saying, let's identify probably 2 people in each of the constituencies that will come for this training so that we can then have this. And we create a center, we create booths in there, so that when the locals want to participate because they don't know how to use the EGP, then we can have that booth, that someone who can then be able to help them, guide them on how to do the EGP, and they can be able to do that, Chair. And these are some of the issues. Engineers overwhelmed by work, and we need to employ more engineers. Of course, and what we are trying to do, Chair, and I was talking to the colleague from Ministry of Infrastructure, because we have had challenges even in the central government where a certificate is, there's supposed to be inspection of work so that as interim payment certificate is issued. But there are no people in the districts to do that work. Of infrastructure, and according to what we have been told, sometimes it will take 3 months, 4 months. It means a contractor won't be doing anything to wait for an inspector to come. And we have been talking with the colleagues from Ministry of Infrastructure. Is there a way we can decentralize this function so that we have got these inspectors, we have got these engineers in the local, in the areas where the projects are taking place, and working as one government, Chair, we can then, if the engineers are under the district office and the constituents want this work, we can use those engineers so that we have got what we call a common user? common services, so that when we have got, say, engineers, accountants, auditors, we don't have an accountant for Ministry of Agriculture at the district level, another accountant for Ministry of Health at the district level, another accountant and engineers. In that way, we have the common user services where we have got a pool of accountants, a pool of engineers that would dip in all these different institutions, Chair, so that we can be able to build capacity. The last issue, Chair, and I hope I haven't missed anything, is the issue of the investment by the constituencies in this solar system. And unless my colleague wants to add anything, our understanding was that the policy was made, and the issue now is under procurement, and as it is going procurement, once they finish that process, this work should be able to start, Chair. But I don't know whether my colleague wants to add anything. Thank you very much.
SPS, you'd like to add?
Just on the Presidential Solar Initiative, Chairperson.
Go ahead.
Just to indicate, based on our submission earlier yesterday, but for the record, for this particular appearance, the procurement processes are underway, as we indicated, and we're very optimistic that in the next coming weeks we should gain a substantial traction. But just to re-emphasize that presidential directives must be implemented, and this is one of those that is cardinal and of critical importance to the energy sufficiency of our country. Submit.
Thank you so much. Deputy Auditor General, do you have any comments, any points of clarifications?
Chair, just to say that the discussion that we are having, I think will have a major impact as we do audits further, and especially that also we are supposed to verify the submissions, the memorandum. I think that's what I would say. That we are looking at it both from, as the ST has said, going forward, and also the verification aspect on how we are going to do the verification. That will be our role, I think, as Auditor General, going forward, especially that we are closing this session.
Thank you so much. Going to ask questions, but being the chair, probably I'll just summarize and to just acknowledge your elaborate responses regarding the report of the Auditor General for the financial year ending 2024. I think the first one was on the budget utilization and fund management. Second one, project implementation, youth and empowerment grants, loan recoveries, bursary management, procurement and asset management, and lastly, governance. From the conversation, perhaps I can just re-emphasize on a few points. Number one, I'll go to the harmonization of salaries. I know and I take note of the response given by ST, but as a committee, we recommend that this exercise be undertaken. Note that salaries should go to the highest, but even the notches, just to ensure that there is fair play. It will give motivation to our local authority employees. We want them to undertake their work while at the same time getting fair pay for their job. On the loans, ST, many councils have neglected to enforce the Public Finance Management Act number 1 of 2018, citing that they have not been given guidance by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development on the measures to take, especially on the penalties as recommended by the Auditor General. I know that this is just an excuse because the law is there, but taking advantage of the revised 2026 CDF guidelines, we hope that these measures will be explicit. The loan component is a very good component, and we thank you for listening to your committee, because you wanted to do away with this component because of the issue of paying back. But it gives cheap capital to those who are serious. And people must also be taught through strict measures that when you borrow government money, you must pay back. And so if the officers in the local authorities are not able to pick from the Public Finance Management Act, can we streamline and tell them to say these are the measures that you are to take going forward? This is a revolving fund. We would love to see it work. On budget and funding, the CDF increment from 1.6 to 40 million kwacha is a flagship program of the UPND, and it's taking services closer to the people. Yeah, the interruptions caused by funding are noted from the audit reports, and I must say that we thank the Office of the Auditor General for their work and the measures, ST, that the government has been putting in place to improve the gaps we've been noticing from the time we started doing this work. We are able to acknowledge the improvement as a committee, that officers are now adhering to some of the measures. What remains are the cross-cutting issues that we need to deal with. Specific audit issues have reduced, except a few like missing documents, and we welcome the digitalization reforms that the government is taking. In councils, officers love to do it deliberately. So I hope we can take these reforms sooner than later. And lastly, we hope that you clarify the circular that councils have been using to overspend, especially on areas of administration. Some council officers are just sick. They like to misuse public resources. This is 2026. They will utilize that circular to spend monies and claim that we use the circular to spend for 2027 because we needed work to be, yet we're in 2026. So you need to clarify on this. If there's an urgent component to be paid, they must pay. But to go and overspend by 100%, you spend, some councils have actually expended the administrative funds for 2026. So this year, they will tell you that they are using the administrative funds for 2027 because they have work to do. So we need these officers present here to guide our councils, especially on administrative funds. You give them the other monies that were locked, but now they are finding excuses on the CDF funds. So ST, we thank you for your presentation this afternoon going into the evening. I wish to acknowledge the hard work of our permanent witnesses who have been with us from January. Today marks our last session. Thank you so much for your dedication and hard work. I always mourn that these equally must be supported through an allowance. I know it was there, ST, but to sit from January to March 31st, from morning, sometimes would go up to 21 hours. We, your members, would get an allowance. Them equally. I don't know what the issues were, but we are saying, can those officers that come here log in and just find better ways to manage the fund? so that we also, I know they are not motivated, but they are dedicated to duty, and this is why they are here. But I would plead as their chairperson, because I see how much they put in. Sometimes ourselves, I will ask Honorable Mtelo to sit in while I do some handovers in the constitution. They are always here, Mr. Kazinga, and your team, the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Local Government, the Local Government Service Commission, in short, our permanent witnesses, our staff here, the Secretariat. Thank you for your support. Auditor General, we thank you for your hard work. Your report exposes, some governance issues, financial irregularities, and because of such sittings, you find that people have opted to do the right thing, those with the conscience and integrity. But for those who don't have, they continue to disregard even the CDF guidelines. And so we thank you, and we hope you continue to give us timely reports. Honorable members, following online, virtually, and my son, Honorable Mtelo, very reliable. You can imagine you attending Komboka on Saturday. He drove all the way Sunday just to be here on time. Now, I don't know, because where it comes from, the land mass, 50% is water, the other one is land. How did you move to come here yesterday? Thank you for your dedication. Dr. Mansa, we thank you for the lectures. Sometimes I want engineering, because he helps even to lecture our well-learned engineers in the councils. Thank you for the presentation, and ST, we end here. I wish to take back the immunity that was given
Good evening. There you have it, the last witness to make an appearance before the Committee on Local Government Accounts, which was considering the report of the Auditor General on the Constituency Development Fund, CDA, for the financial year ended 31st December 2024. They've just made their submissions. This is the Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Felix Nkulukusa, from the Ministry of Finance and National Planning, together with the team. And this committee, the Committee on Local Government Accounts, started receiving submissions from various local authorities on 26 January 2026, and today was the last day. And the last witness that appeared is the Secretary to the Treasury. And so we do have another committee. This is the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs, which will also receive their last witness on 8th April 2025. So we urge you to stay tuned and to keep watching Parliament Television. My name is Matimba Mkua. From all of us here, it's goodbye. Do have a lovely evening.